and good afternoon. Welcome to our July SKIP Executive Board meeting. So I'll call the meeting to order and ask Claire to do roll call, please.
Certainly. City of Auburn, Nancy Backus.
Here.
City of Kent, Dana Ralph.
Here.
City of Burien, Liz Steed. She let us know she wouldn't be able to attend, so we have Burien's alternate, Anya Zupancic.
Here.
Thank you. And City of Covington, Christina Soltis.
Christina, there we go.
Oh, interesting. I was unmuted. I'm here.
Welcome. City of Des Moines, Jean Oxiger. I don't see Jean here, and I don't see the alternate either, so mark them absent. City of Federal Way, Brian Davis.
Here.
Welcome. City of Maple Valley, Victoria Schroff.
Here.
Welcome. City of Normandy Park, Eric Zimmerman.
I'm present.
Thank you. City of Renton, Carmen Rivera. I did not see Carmen or James Alberson Jr.
I'm here. I just haven't changed the panelist thing yet, but I'll figure it out. I'm on my phone.
Hey, James.
Thank you. And City of SeaTac, James Lovell. Right. And City of Tukwila, Thomas McLeod. I heard Thomas McLeod and the alternate Dennis Martinez, neither would be able to attend today. So I heard that in advance. And then King County, Sonari Marshall.
Hi, here. And I've also asked Diane Klauber, our new deputy director, to join me as well.
Great.
Welcome, Diane.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all.
Hi. Okay, I think that's it with roll call. Yes, Claire? Okay, and I don't believe we have any advisory board members joining us this month, but Claire, if you'd like to help with staff introductions, we would appreciate that.
Yeah, let's go ahead. I'll start at the top of my screen. I'm going to call on staff work group members, and if you wouldn't mind popcorning to the next person you see. How about Matt? Do you mind going first?
Not at all, Claire. Hey, everybody. Matt Torpy, City of Maple Valley Community Development Manager, here to support Councilmember Schroff. And I'll throw it over to Evan at CTEC.
Good afternoon, everyone. Evan Maxim with the City of SeaTac. And I have to admit, Claire, I cannot see the staff members at the moment. Oh, I see Angie Matthias from City of Renton. So Angie, I'll throw it over to you.
Thank you, Evan. Angie Matthias, Long Range Planning Manager for the City of Renton. Here to support Councilmember Rivera and Councilmember Alberson. And I'm looking. Marina.
Good afternoon, Marina Hansen, Human Services Manager for the City of Kent and supporting City of Kent Mayor Ralph. I too have a really weird view going, but I will try to find a staff person unless somebody wants to volunteer themselves. Oh, Laurel.
Hello, Laurel Humphrey, City of Tukwila, Legislative Analyst. I think that might be it, Claire. Is there somebody I missed?
Dorsal?
Dorsal, thank you.
Hello, Dorsal Plants SKIP Program Coordinator.
Great. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you. Looks like we're all kind of having some fun challenges on a less warm Friday afternoon than the rest of this week has been. So let's go ahead and move to public comment. This is the time on the agenda for public comment. And if you are online and would like to make public comment, please use the raise hand function at the bottom of your screen. Claire, do we have anyone online today?
We have one person online, but I do not see a hand up. for public comment.
Okay. Just gonna check here. Okay. Hi, Afyong. It's nice to see you in attendance. All right, well then we will move on. Is there any written comment today?
There's been no written public comment received.
All right, let's move to item 3 then, approval of the June 13th, 2025 minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the approval of the June 13th, 2025 minutes, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say no. The minutes have been approved. All right, moving to agenda modifications. Are there any agenda modifications today, Claire?
No, Chair.
All right, let's go to board business then. We're going to just swiftly move through this agenda. I think you'll all be happy. I don't think it's going to take us the entire time this afternoon. We'll give you some back. So let's go to item A, the SKIP Legislative Forum. And we're going to review a proposed agenda and outline for that forum that is scheduled tentatively for September 19th, 2025. And if you recall, we had some discussion back in March to kind of organize a forum for the upcoming legislative session. And the goals of the forum are to educate our state delegate on SKIP's important contributions to affordable housing in South King County, while also lifting up the collaborative work that we do. So I will turn it over to Claire for the presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Are you all able to see my slides?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So you should have 2 documents in your agenda packet sent by me on Thursday, July 10th at 3:27 p.m. That is relevant for this conversation. The first is the draft outline of the legislative forum, and the second is the draft agenda for the forum. We'll be going over the information in both of these documents. But first, let's jump right into reviewing the background on this topic. As the chair mentioned, at the March Executive Board meeting, the board directed SKIP staff to begin planning a legislative forum in advance of the 2026 legislative session. Knowing this was of interest to the board at the April and May Executive Board meetings, the board, reviewed and approved the 2026 work plan, which incorporated the planning and execution of a SKIP legislative forum in odd-numbered years. At the May meeting, we reviewed a draft outline of the legislative forum, and you provided feedback, including a desire to focus the scope on South King County's state delegates rather than including King County council members and federal delegates, and to hold the event in the fall and not at peak vacation time in August. At our June meeting together, you confirmed that September 19th at 1 p.m. worked for you, which is the date and time of our regularly scheduled board meeting. So the next several slides will cover the key aspects of the information contained in the draft outline document in your agenda packet, but feel free to pull that up if it's helpful. So what is the purpose of the SKIP Legislative Forum? Well, it's to convene state elected officials with the SKIP boards to uplift and amplify the good work of SKIP to address the shortage of affordable housing in the subregion as a unified, coordinated, and collaborative voice. So this includes highlighting, informing, and broadcasting your efforts in pooling the $14.5 million for affordable housing across 11 cities. Funding the construction or preservation of 679 units, or homes if you want to be less technical, preventing homelessness and advancing housing stability because of this work. So additionally, the purpose is to show South King County's strength on a topic of affordable housing to demonstrate the power of the SKIP Coalition to state legislators. So in terms of who will be representing SKIP, and who will be attending the event as the audience for the forum. The left column of the table includes the parties who could speak to Skip's work, and the right column includes the various parties that we would invite as attendees. So representing Skip could be the Skip Executive Board, the Skip Advisory Board, the South King County Planners, or we call them SOKIHO, the staff work group members, and then Skip staff. And of course, likely not everyone would be able to attend, so it's likely a sprinkling of folks from some of these other groups. In terms of the audience, the state senators and representatives from all of your legislative districts, the Association of Washington Cities Government Relations staff, the Governor's Office on Housing Policy, and a representative from the Housing Development Consortium of Seattle, King County. So the staff work group provided helpful feedback that 90 minutes for the forum would likely be the right amount of time. 2 hours felt like too much, and we don't want anyone dreading being there because it's too long of a commitment. Within that 90 minutes, 30 would be spent on multiple speakers representing the variety of voices that support our work. We'll take a closer look in a few minutes at the agenda, the draft agenda, which includes more detail on the proposed speakers and topics. 60 minutes would be spent in interactive roundtable discussions. We'll go over the roundtable topics when we get to that draft agenda. We already talked about the date. And then in terms of location, the Tukwila Community Center, we have a room reserved that could accommodate the 60 people that we would anticipate coming to the event. So how will we carry out this event? So Dorsal and I will be coordinating the logistics. You can see on the slide the action items for us, including developing an invitation in the form of a flyer. This can be attached to the email invitation board members can send to respective state delegates. Template language for that email invitation, unified talking points. We'll coordinate with staff work group members who are available to assist in facilitating the roundtable discussions, event setup and teardown, noticing of the meeting, and providing snacks and water. And if you have local snacks produced in South King County you'd like to promote, just let me know. And for the executive board action items, I heard you say in previous meetings that you would like to invite the state electeds yourselves since you already have established relationships. So you can use the template and invitation flyer we're developing. We'll be developing talking points for all speakers for their review and approval and their addition of personal touches or other information they'd like to speak to. And then finally, the most important action item for those that can attend is to show up in person. And so please let me know if you can't make it. And I know Mayor Backus sadly won't be able to attend. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to stop sharing real quick. I'm going to bring up the draft agenda and just briefly go over it with you all. So you have an idea of what we're looking at. And this was also included in your agenda packet. All right. Are you able to see that? All right, thank you. So as an introduction, I would propose that I kick it off to set the stage, the purpose of the event, why we're there, go over the agenda, the timing of it, an icebreaker likely that's a simple introduction of everyone that's there. Since the plan would be to have it in Tukwila, I would propose having Mayor McLeod just do a brief welcome and opener as he is the host city of the event. Mayor Ralph could do a history of SKIP and the Housing Capital Fund, a brief overview. Then 5 minutes to hear from the advisory board. And 5 minutes to hear from perhaps the planner's perspective in South King County. And then finally, in terms of the speaking part of the event, perhaps a couple board members could address the call to action on our legislative priorities or other unified talking points that we want to share out. We would then transition to the roundtable discussions. I would explain the process and what it would, what folks should be doing. And the first roundtable topic discussion that all the tables would be engaged in. We're looking at about 5 tables of 10 to 12 participants. That would be a good mixture of representation across South King County and between board members, state electeds, and city staff that might be there. But the topic would be just discussing the overall housing needs. We know that by 2044, King County needs to produce 308,000 affordable units plus 59,000 emergency housing beds. This would also be the time and opportunity to highlight the Housing Capital Fund projects that you all have supported, and then the other services and resources that everyone is putting into addressing the housing crisis. The second roundtable discussion would be a focus on SKIP's legislative priorities. So after that, it would be a share out, a brief share out from the tables of one thing maybe that was interesting for them to learn or inspiring, and then a wrap up. So I know there's a lot of feelings and thoughts about the legislative forum and want to provide space and time for that. So let me bring up my slides. I've got some questions for you all as well. Just transition back here real quick. All right. One moment. And all right, back to the slides. So these are my questions for you. And before we get there, Brian, I don't know if you want to, I know you're here now, so want to give you the opportunity to speak to some of your thoughts and concerns about the proposal.
Yeah, you want me to go now?
I think now is a good time.
Sure. Okay. Thank you for that. And also thank you, Claire, for the conversations that we've had leading up, at least email conversations that we've been having leading up to this meeting. We're all representatives of different organizations on this board, and I think we all try to do our best to represent those interests in this space, in this forum. And I try to do so without constantly having to check in with them and saying, hey, are we on the right track? I try to, predict that ahead of time. And on this issue, I felt it was appropriate to check in with the city leadership. And there's a lot of concerns with SKIP being holding a legislative forum. When we're talking about the purpose statement that Claire talked about, to convene everyone to talk about, to uplift and amplify the good work of SKIP is doing, totally on board with that. And if that's what we want to do as part of this, that's great. It's when we get into the second part of the purpose, which is to address the shortage of affordable housing in the subregion, because I think there are different interests and priorities when it comes to that. And I know that we as this group, we try to be unified, but we take such great lengths to come up with language in the legislative flyer that represents this group. And there's, we're carefully looking at the language to make sure it doesn't run afoul of any policies that our individual cities has. So anyway, so I talked with Claire a little bit about it, and my city is concerned with the forum in the sense that we might be communicating as an organization to our legislative representatives on issues of affordable housing where there may be a policy gap. You know, the flyer currently has language that we need to fund all aspects of affordable housing, and that there were some aspects of affordable housing that were legislated in Olympia that cities did not oppose, or excuse me, that cities did oppose, specifically in member cities of this organization. And so Federal is concerned that if we have a forum that this group then is communicating priorities on when it comes to affordable housing that are within aspects that can be supported by each member city. And again, I think every city we have some similarities, but we also have some differences. And so I don't want to have a situation where we are communicating as an organization where we just, the bottom line of the message is we need absolutely all aspects of affordable housing no matter what, so please help us. And I think that was the message that was communicated before, and they responded. And they responded in ways that cities were not in favor of. And so that's my concern. The format is even more concerning, where some of the communication is not coming from the board, it's coming from staff members and planners and advisory board members who are all well-intentioned and well-meaning and have, they have only the purest of intentions at heart, but they're often not connected with some of the elected priorities, some of the priorities that elected officials get. And so they would be, the concern is that they would be communicating a message that we already know is going to be communicated, is that we need all aspects of affordable housing in South King County. And so I'm just concerned about that format a little bit. The other thing is that if we're we had other priorities that we talked about, not just on this particular subject, but when we met as a board, we talked about priorities for the year. There was a number of priorities that we scored high, and there were some that were scored lower, and there were some right on the verge that dropped off because staff only has so much time to deal with priorities. And so if those that are dropping off, the ones that just barely miss the cut are dropping off because we're spending so much time on a legislative forum that speaks to affordable housing that's supposed to represent all cities, that to me, that's kind of a misalignment of resources. As a city, we just met with our delegation last Tuesday, and we talked about affordable housing. So the message is being communicated, at least again from our city, and we're just concerned that the message from Skip might be different than what the priorities of our city has. But again, if we want to talk about the good work that we're doing when it comes to with the capital fund and other accomplishments that we've had, just that I totally am on board with that. But it's when we come to the policy discussion and the advocacy of certain aspects of affordable housing, I think we might potentially run into conflicts, and that's what I want to avoid. So I know that's a lot, and I know that we've discussed this over a number of board meetings, and I apologize for not bringing this up sooner. But those are some concerns that my city leadership had when we talked about this as a group. So thank you, Claire.
Thanks, Brian. So we have a lot of questions here. I think Brian brings up some, really important points, and would love to have a discussion with the board about, your thoughts, feelings on that. Chair Backus, do you mind facilitating? We've got the questions on the slide, but then also just wanting to hear folks' feedback on Brian's comments just then.
Sure. Are there any thoughts from board members right now on the comments that Brian just offered? And don't think, Victoria?
Thank you. Sorry, I was looking for my raise hand button, which I have again lost. I'm wondering, and he does raise good points, and I'm listening, and I'm wondering how his city feels about, or how we feel in general about, with those two priorities. The second one, I'm not looking at it in front of me right now, but the one that talked about where the cities get to maintain more of the taxes raised on, and again, I don't have it in front of me, so I can't remember what the bill was. Didn't write it down, but is that something that seems a little less maybe controversial? And could we maybe hone in on if there's an issue with that broader one of all affordable housing? Could we maybe come together on at least that one that says locally, may we retain more of those funds instead of so many of them going to the state? Because that seems very pointed. It's a specific ask. So it seems a little more, we're coming to them, here's the solution. I'm wondering how Brian, how you feel about that, and how everybody else might feel about it as well.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Schroff. There's going to be points of alignment that we totally agree on. I don't dispute that. And the one that you just raised, I think we're all in agreement. It's the idea of, how long will you do this for every single issue that we talk about? And so I think that's going to be difficult to coordinate. And when we get into an open forum where we're just kind of talking freely and ad-libbing, we're introducing new things that we've not talked about as a board, and then it gets conveyed to them that as an idea or a brainstorm that'll, as they walk away from all the meetings that they have throughout their day, and they kind of check in with, oh, South King County homeless, oh yeah, I heard this, and then all of a sudden they take it as our policy. So I appreciate what you're saying, and I think we agree on that for sure. My concern is that there's many other questions just like the one that you raised that we would have to coordinate.
Thank you. Dana?
So all of this makes a lot of sense to me, and it also feels very familiar to the testimony that I know for sure Nancy and I provided when it came to 1110. And that's the message of, we understand that a whole range of things need to happen, but cities understand best, and we are also doing the good work that needs to be done. And I am wondering if we craft our message to be something more similar to that we understand here's the broad range of what is considered affordable housing. And that looks very different, not even just across, if you look across the state, the county, but across South King County, if you're looking at local AMI versus county AMI, I mean, affordable housing in Redmond is really expensive housing in Kent. So like all of those things, right? I'm wondering if our message shouldn't be, we recognize the need. We also are asking for the return of some of that local control so we can do these things in our cities in a way that makes sense for all of our residents. And oh, by the way, here's some examples of the great things that we're doing, because every city can say, here's how we're doing this. And because the thing I kept hearing from the legislature is, you all cities are refusing to do anything, so we're going to make you do things. I think the message should be opposite. We are doing things, but you are taking away our ability to do it in a way that makes sense for our community.
Yeah, Dana, I was exactly right there with you. And instead of maybe even sharing our updated priorities, more along the lines of, here are the actions that have been done to us over the last few years. Here's how each of our cities are addressing those, maybe more along the lines of, would you please give us some time to see how the implementation of legislation, the changes to our comp plans, give us a moment to breathe to see how that all works to benefit the need for different types of affordable housing. So you and I are, not surprisingly, on the same page when it comes to that.
Yeah, Brian, I completely get what you're saying. I think that's a path for us to be able to talk about what we actually need and what keeps happening. I mean, I'm not going to say what they're doing to us, because I had a legislator call in demand an apology from me for saying that previously. So got to be careful with words I choose. But I think this way we're not saying, you know, anything about a specific type or that we all want all of them, because I don't think there's a single city that is going to say we would like everything, please. And that is a concern when we talk about a message and we use words like all types of affordable housing, right? But maybe this is our chance to educate them.
And I think you're right. It is a good opportunity to educate so that they understand, even when we come together as an organization of SKIP, there are still nuanced differences. And so even in South King County, it's not a one size fits all approach. And to help them understand by example where those challenges are, right? Normandy Park is going to have different challenges than Auburn is in all of this legislation that has come about. So helping them to understand, even though I will assume good intentions, those good intentions don't always come about the way that they think they will. So maybe that's more the opportunity for us to educate on the good work that we're doing, the housing that we're helping to develop, but also here are the challenges of the timelines and the requirements that have been given to us over the last few years. Brian, any thoughts on that? And then I'll go to Sonari and then Eric.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. I think there's where, like I was mentioning to Councilmember Schroff, I think there's points where we could definitely come to an agreement on. I guess the feedback from the leadership is what's aside from the amplifying and the promotion of what we've done as an organization, the discussions about what we need. Why do we need this? Why do we need to do this when we're already doing it as cities? I guess that's the question.
Well, for me, I would say the amplification of SKIP's existence and the good work that we have done so that the voices of any of the cities that are included in SKIP maybe do carry a little bit more weight in questions that come up during session or outside of session. Sonari?
Thanks. Yeah, trying to think how to phrase this. So when we first talked about this, and I'd have to go back to the minutes to look at it, I understood it to be primarily the amplification of what are we doing, because there was a concern that folks weren't really tracking at the legislative level all of the action that was happening, both individually by cities and then with SKIP as a whole, and particularly the funding that we are doing together needed to be kind of raised up. I think where we start to get into, I have probably with my council, I probably have and leadership, I probably have the not exact, but somewhat a different end of the spectrum from some of the concerns of Brian's council. But where we start to get into questions of local control and timing and should things happen now versus later, I might have a similar concern, which is I kind of want to know what everyone's going to say and what are we going to say together, because I need to clear that. Where I messaged this up so far was just to say, we're going to talk about what SKIP does, what's the impact of what SKIP does, and make sure folks are aware of that. Where we start to get into like more legislative asks beyond the one that Claire has put on in the draft agenda so far, I do think it gets a little bit more complicated and a little bit murkier. And it's difficult for us to figure out how to thread that needle.
Great, thank you. Eric?
Yeah, number one, I will be on the team. I will play nice and I will go along with the group's plan. I do want to point out that I think increasingly it's going to be challenging for us to say we are providing affordable housing in order to respond to the homelessness crisis, or we are impacting homelessness by providing affordable housing. And I know that's a controversial thing to say, but I've been spending a lot of time with researchers and in the evidence, and Dr. Bruce Meyer and his research colleagues have been speaking with me in preparation to meeting with some of our other local electeds. But I went to King County's own data in anticipating our legislative forum and what some of our reflections or questions or discussion pieces could be. Looking at the point in time study from last year in the survey instrument that was used, I think was worthwhile for us to talk about as we prepare for this. And I think it gets to what Brian's asking, but looking at the cohort of homeless men and asking homeless men what happened, why are you homeless, and what has contributed to being homeless, there was really only one answer. The second most common answer was eviction, 6.5%, couldn't afford rent increase, 4.9%, but no other answer rose above 6.5% other than I lost my job, which was 50%, higher than 50% of the cohort. Essentially, everyone had more or less the same answer. And it wasn't that housing wasn't affordable or that the rent increased beyond what they could afford. It was something happened in their own life that caused them to lose their job. And I think a number of us have suspicions as to what types of things might happen for someone to be losing their job. So I just want to say, I'm no longer sure if the conversation we're having with legislators is we're creating affordable housing so that we can respond to homelessness. I'm not sure that in the evidence base that's developing, that will ultimately end up being an honest declaration. And I wonder if down the road we'll realize that by providing the wraparound services, those would have ended up being the most important thing, with affordable housing being the secondary thing to provide. But that's just context, and I wanted to share that data because I think it's provocative data, and it runs contrary even, I mean, KCRHA provided this data, but I think it runs contrary even to what KCRHA would say is the impact of the work that they're doing, that survey result. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dana, you had your hand up, but it came down. Did your thoughts get covered, or?
Yeah. So I think Eric said a lot of it, but then on a clarification to Brian about what are we asking for? I think where I was trying to go with that is maybe the ask is give us local control, give us a chance to catch our breath. It's not asking for more tools. It's not asking for more intervention. It's saying, give us a chance to prove that we're already doing the right thing. And that to me feels like a far less controversial ask than anything, if we're going to have an ask.
Thank you. And Anya, I saw that you had your hand up. Did you have something to?
My thoughts were very much in line with Sunari's of like, we should be talking about the work that we're doing, emphasizing that we are using 1490 or 1460 and 1590 funds. And I think that should be our unified message, giving the reminder that we have this tool, we have the Housing Capital Fund, we are making these projects, and this is what, if we're making additional asks, these are what we should be investing in. This is what we should be pushing on, rather than diving into each individual city needs, because we all have our own lobbyists, or we all have our own, relationships with these legislators. We individually can be having those conversations. But if we want to talk about with our legislators the value of SKIP, we should be talking about, this is the opportunity we have, these are the tools we have, this is what we're doing, and this is where we would like to see, further contributions. So
Great. Thank you. Christina?
Thank you. First off, I love so much of what has been said. And just as a perspective, I know we're talking about housing, but parallel to this, and this is just an idea, when that will return back to the housing, but the state has a big push for housing. The state also, well, we all have a big push for recognizing diversity, equity, and whatnot. And that parallel right there for me, the beauty of it that lies in, recognizing that just as there is that diversity among people, requiring the respect and space for individuals, but there's also a diversity in the needs of cities. And that one size fits all, cookie cutter approach, but to really parallel that to the diversity that our cities are, that legislative approach just fails to address the uniqueness of each city and the local challenges that affect everyone. But just as an idea when presenting something, I mean, I like analogies, and there's, no one thing doesn't affect the next thing. It's a big puzzle that without, you take one big piece out and the cookie crumbles. So just throwing that out there.
Great, thank you. Claire?
I'm hearing a lot of different ideas about the content to present. And one thing the staff work group and I have talked about recently is SKIP is strongest when we're aligned on things. And it's important to focus on the areas of agreement. And often when we do engage in those items where we can't, we try and get to consensus, but it is challenging. We spend a lot of time on that. And I just want to acknowledge that I think there may be opportunities for accomplishing the goals of this forum in a way that doesn't necessarily require us to hold this forum in this way. So just, I want to throw it out there for your thoughts and discussion, but I am more than happy to sit in with meetings with you and your city's leadership with state delegates to talk about SKIP at any time, so that it's focused, really on SKIP's work and highlighting and amplifying that. To me, that would be one way of sort of accomplishing the purpose and the goals that I guess originally we had talked about with the forum. But if it is really up to the board, if the board does want to pursue this in some way, we just want to make sure that all of our member jurisdictions are comfortable with that content. And I'm hearing enough differences that it just may be a struggle for us to get there. So just want to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Thank you. Victoria?
Thank you. I really appreciate this conversation and listening to it. And I love that. I'm actually really liking Claire's suggestion, because I'm thinking our city, much probably like everybody else's cities, we have our legislative forums with our legislators every year in the fall, where we get to present, our priorities. And I really like the idea of Claire having you join, or Dorsal, to help support what it is each individual city needs. Because I feel like the message I'm hearing from everybody who's spoken, and I agree, and I know my council would agree, is do less and allow us to do more. So, and how everybody's saying, like, look what we've done already, so many communities doing so many things. And I do feel like a way forward with that would be do less, let us do more. And we would like to hold on to more of those funds, because that's a big piece of it too. If we could still, at least I think my city, I think, would get behind that. But if we could be a little bit more individualized and have Claire help support us in that greater message of local control, and maybe have the nuances be a little more specialized, when we're speaking to our individual legislators, maybe. But I'm more and more leaning toward not having one big forum like this, especially considering how much time and effort it's going to take to put it on.
Okay, other thoughts? This would be kind of the tipping point on whether we are going to do the forum or not today, since we're moving very close to that time. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. And I also appreciate the comments that have been said so far. And I think if it were structured in a way that was just mentioned by Councilmember Schroff and a few others, I think that's something that we could support. But again, we probably need to Mayor Bax's point, we probably need to see something pretty quickly on that before my city would be comfortable. But I really appreciate this discussion, and I agree with, I think, just about everything that's been said. So like I said, why don't you, if there's time, if you could sort of redraft this so it's and again, I think it should also come from the communication and some of the things that we've just discussed as a board, I think that needs to come from the board as well in such a meeting. So again, I appreciate what's been said.
Eric.
I have an idea. I think maybe to tie multiple things together. I really like the idea of appreciating our staff, our advisory board, and also all the cities by being able to speak with our legislators about what we've done. And I think we can say clearly, yes, this is what we've done, or this is what we're doing, and we know it will have a positive impact, in some way, and it's going to help our most vulnerable in important ways. But maybe there's an element of the forum where we can say, within our municipalities, we also have questions because we feel like this is an area of policy where we're learning and growing together. The evidence is changing around us. And, just to share with you some of the on-the-ground observations we've had from staff or from agencies like our firefighters and police, or other input that we've had from community organizations, but just to raise them up to say, here are open issues in areas where we think there needs to be further study or further action from the state. Maybe that's a way to kind of bring together a strong affirmation of the work we've done, but then also have a few messages we can include that could help cities like Federal Way or Normandy Park. By the way, I think the highest our homeless population got in the last 5 years was 1 individual. So we really have no standing to comment on this from experience. We're more just an interested partner of other cities, but could give cities like Federal Way and others a way to tell their councils and their leadership, we are presenting our city's questions or our city's concerns in a way that's not just implying that we agree with everything that the state has done will lead us to, a durable, permanent, effective solution.
Thank you, Eric. Christina?
Yeah, as long as we've been doing this, I would say we've wanted the, I guess, attention of higher legislators to be able to showcase the success of SKIP. And I would hesitate to completely cancel a forum because I think we'll kind of shoot ourselves in the foot. This is something that we've, even though some of the details just maybe need to get figured out slightly, but I think we'll regret if we do go back on this. We have so much to showcase. There's like, SKIP has done good work. And even if we do it just for that, just so that in the back of their minds, as they're doing their daily work, SKIP did this, SKIP did that, for the sole purpose of SKIP making it on the radar of our legislators. I think this would be an excellent event. And I love what Eric said. And if we could, because it's true, we are very different, but if we could, instead of focusing on what the state has done to us or, as individual cities, but to say, hey, we are different. This city needs this, and maybe not even use names, but say, hey, there are different needs. These are the needs. We're not the same. And there's such different needs that even amidst that, this is what our success is. And just really focus on positive. I think it would be a great event.
Thank you, Christina. Sonari?
I think I'm getting lost is what I was gonna say. And I'm at the point in a conversation like this where I need someone to sum up like, what have we heard and where are we trending? Because I've heard everything from like, let's go to the just doing, individual meetings and having Claire join meetings with the legislators to like, let's keep the event and focus on problems we're seeing that aren't addressed by state to like, let's talk about local control primarily, to where I think Christina just took us, which was back to maybe similar to what I was saying, was like, I thought this was about just echoing the good work that we did. I would be really hesitant to put my support behind something, with all respect to the research that you're doing, Eric, that is saying that the evidence is shifting, that the context is changing. I understand there are felt needs on the ground, and I think there are a variety of experiences that folks are having, but I don't think the county is interested in participating in an event where we're saying that the evidence has substantively changed, because I don't think we're on the same page there. where we can have an event that is focused on Skip has done this, Skip has accomplished this, Skip has taken the legislative mandates that have been delivered and turned them into this kind of rainbow unicorn, like, and and by Skip, I mean the collection of member cities. I think that is likely a worthy use of time, but I leave that to Claire because she's kind of saying what are the trade-offs. Where we start to try to find ourselves to get into a more complicated ask of the legislature, I think we're going to trip over ourselves and we don't have enough time together to get there before September. That's my honest opinion.
Thank you, Sonari. Other thoughts? So and Sonari, thank you, because I think you summarized all of the comments that have been made. Here's just my thought is we do have the forum. We're able to highlight something from each of the cities, the good work that has been done, share collectively what Skip has been able to fund. And then maybe the ask is, would you please let us finish implementing all of the legislation that has occurred in the last few years? We have all just rewritten our comprehensive plans to include all of the mandates. Can we please see how this works before we add on top of that? Would that make sense? Anybody thoughts on that? Victoria's got a thumbs up.
I think we'll want to hear probably from like each board member if we're going to try and get unified so that there's no confusion about people's position on it, and just making sure we've got folks' support or additional concerns. Or
yeah, I'd have to ask. I can't answer that on my own.
Okay.
I'm here as Liz's alternate today, so I would love a chance to talk about this with Liz.
Okay, so if we can't come to a decision today on the format, we are going to have a very definitive deadline. So maybe Claire, on Monday, if we can kind of agree on a format, you send that out with a deadline that each of us needs to get back to Claire with, yes, we can support this format. No, we can't support this format. And then we can take it from there. So if we get too many, no, we can't support this format, we just won't do it. But if we can get enough, yes, I like this type of format, maybe this little tweak, or we're thinking our information on what our member city has done is this. Does that sound fair? So it's going to require that the electeds and the staff work together on this clearly to make sure, because I had heard at the beginning that there was some concern that staff may say something different than the electeds, which I don't think happens very often, or it shouldn't happen very often, right? Because the policies are being created at the elected level with staff's guidance. But I know that it's happened in Auburn before, so I'm not going to say it doesn't happen. So does that sound fair to everyone? Thumbs up.
And Chair, if I don't hear from folks, which I know everyone is really, really busy, and it's hard to get things done outside of these meetings. I think knowing if we are leaning towards having the forum, which I think I'm hearing, yes, because I think what we really need to do is get the invitations out. Otherwise, we're going to be too short on time. So my question to you all then is, if we know, if we think we can attempt to get alignment, is it worth it for Dorsal and I to be working on those invitations for you all to send out? and we can figure out these details as we go? Or do we really need to have those details and agree upon it before we even move forward?
So I know a lot of times when the full agenda is not been formulated and there's a desire to hold something, we'll just get a hold, right? An invitation for a hold on our calendars with a follow-up to come. So perhaps that's the best thing to do is, and maybe in this case, the hold comes from Skip, but the outreach when the event is more fully formed comes from each member city. How would that be?
Claire, this is
And
James.
so-
Real quickly, I feel
Yeah.
comfortable speaking for Carmen. You can put Renton down for a yes, so save us the trouble. It makes sense to, I think, go forward with it from our standpoint.
Thank you. And Carmen, I see, is here now. So
Oh,
hi,
she is?
Carmen. Yeah,
And
maybe.
if
There she is. Yeah.
There
and
you are.
and if we hear some no's over email, right, before the next meeting, do we want to decide here now kind of what to do about that? Is that, you know, do you want to talk about it at the August meeting, whether we have it or not, and then we decide if we're gonna follow through with a formal invitation? Or
I think we are getting too close at that point in time. But Christina, sorry, I cut you off.
I have this one question. If we do nothing else at the forum, worst case scenario, if we do nothing else at the forum but inform about Skip, would we cancel the forum? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because then we wouldn't be misaligned in a way. And then just a yes or no on the suggested other piece of, hey, this is what we would also like to present. And if even a couple people are not comfortable with that, these are still cities that are represented. And if they don't want to be represented in that way, then maybe we just leave off that, you know, that portion of it, but still take this as an opportunity to present Skip.
Thoughts?
I like the education piece, and then we can, you know, at least we're celebrating the great work that we're doing. And I also don't want to put us in a place where we're dividing. That's something that's been really, really important to this group from the very beginning. So I do think if we can't get to consensus on anything else, we really need to carefully consider not going down that path.
So are we in agreement that even if it is just telling about the good work of Skip and the projects that we have funded, is that worth holding a forum?
I think there's still more value if we have dialogue as well and roundtables. I think that's a better reason to invite people to participate. And you know, Sonari, I certainly respect that from the county standpoint. You know, there's commitment to a model and a strategy, and I think you'll find municipalities maybe becoming more interested in data and studies that are arising outside the state of Washington, and you know, national, longitudinal, very large studies that include probably most major metro area in the country that, you know, released in the last couple of years. I mean, those are just kind of in vogue and of interest now, but I could certainly agree that those could be outside scope for, you know, what we're talking about at, you know, a forum like this, if that's just not something that we have consensus around getting into. And then there's also plenty of other roundtables and conversations where that kind of data and that kind of research, and even those researchers visiting can occur. It doesn't have to be through this. So I like the idea of staying focused on what we do, but I still think there's some benefit to interaction and dialogue and question asking and question answering.
Okay. Christina?
I did not mean do not have any kind of interaction. I still think people, I would like to give the opportunity for questions, if nothing else. I mean, those are important. And maybe even push to get questions, because that's when it becomes memorable, when somebody truly thinks about something and asks a question about it. But yes, I agree with the roundtable, and we can maybe repurpose those roundtables in like showing the projects, this project at that table, that project and another. And we can get creative with that, but definitely interaction.
Is it worth hearing from our legislators their position on the legislation? Yeah, I know it will be mixed. I know that, Dana, you and I are thinking about the same thing, but
just making sure my inside voice stays on my inside.
Yeah, if we're trying to make good use of time, I don't think we know where they're at.
Okay.
So I don't know if we need to hear it again.
Okay, Victoria.
Thank you. I was just back to where it seems like we're still trying to figure out, are we going to have it or are we not? And come back around to, I really do see the benefit of having it, even if it is that foundational, what we talked about, just sharing and highlighting. And I think back to, I brought this up before, but CLTC, the Southeast Area Legislative Transportation Coalition, that's such a mouthful. But that has been, a really powerful group. And that's, it's been communities all along the SR 18 corridor. And we have pushed and had our name out there and had them in front of all of us. And so much so that when, transportation dollars have been so limited and we've lost them, they've continued to support us in every way that they can, because we've been relentless and they've heard from us as a coalition for years now. And I think Skip similarly maybe hasn't had as much opportunity to get in front of them and have it be just a thing that they know about. Oh yeah, Skip. So I think this might be an opportunity to really show them. I think it'll be powerful to see us all in a room for them to see, oh, okay, this is sort of a massive undertaking, and look at the good work they're doing. So I went from going, okay, that's a good idea, Claire, maybe we should do it individually, to thinking about it. No, I really see the merit in this. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
Thank you. Brian.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm sorry, I need to leave. So let me just throw out a proposal here. And that is, we have 2 agenda items. One is that we do the amplification of what we've done, and that can be done by either Claire or a member of the board or members of the board. And then the second part is a roundtable for executive board, where the executive board gives feedback, basically what we've been doing right now. This has been a great discussion. And I think if we have that discussion with the legislators, that's great feedback for them to hear. And then that's it.
Okay. Other thoughts?
It just did Brian go yet? Okay, I was just checking. In that sort of feedback, because I mean, I keep hearing we are all different, and how do we reflect that? How do we stay together and reflect that at the same time? Is there room then in that second part for each city to kind of be themselves, or each jurisdiction? We're not a city, I guess.
Yes, as long as we say what we're about to say is not in the name of Skip, but it's we bring our collective experience to this forum, but we're not speaking as a policy board collectively for Skip, but these are member city feedback to the legislators. Again, my point here is that the member city have already done that, but if we want to do it in this forum to highlight the existence of Skip, then yeah, I think that would provide the flexibility that each city would have. But again, I think it needs to be this board that is the roundtable, so that we could represent. Because again, I sometimes struggle to do my best to represent the city, and so I think it's got to be the members of the board that is that roundtable.
Yeah. One thing to think about, this is minor, is that could a member of the advisory board welcome everybody, for example, with some canned talking points, just to recognize that they're here and part of it, as opposed to delivering a substantive piece of the agenda, because I hear your concerns there.
I do like that. I think that's a good way to highlight. We do have an advisory board, right? And we do rely on them for some of our work and to help define our positions. So good. That's a good call, Sonari. I like that.
Yeah, thank you. And again, I apologize. I need to go, but thank you for this great discussion. I really appreciate your time and listening to the concerns that I have. And I hope I will do the same in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Okay. Claire, do you have what you need, do you think?
So my question, I guess, I'm hearing folks, what I'm not hearing is we shouldn't have the forum, which I think is where we started. And so what I'm hearing is let's have the forum. And we are going to establish the details, kind of after this meeting, confirming it. But I heard a couple things. What I heard is from Christina is about, if the forum is just focused on amplifying Skip's work, is that okay? And I'm not sure. I think some folks I think if it came down to it, probably it's okay. But can we add a little bit more to the content and the agenda? And I'm hearing interest in city-specific needs and the opportunity to communicate those. And I am hearing the sentiment about wanting more local control and communicating that as well. So I think what I'll do is after this meeting, I can send an email. Maybe we'll do a survey. I don't know how it will look, but it will essentially be these items, these 2 or 3, 4 items, and you will say yes or no if you want it in the forum or not. And we'll take it and we'll take where we can get alignment on. And let's assume we're going to hold the forum. And because of that, I'm hearing also interest in us sending out the calendar holds to the state delegates. So happy to do that with information for them that will follow up with further details. And I think that's what I'm hearing. Chair or others, does this reflect your interest, your expectations, our discussion? Did I miss something?
Claire, can I bring up one point? I've heard this a couple times, the desire for more local control, but putting myself in a legislator's chair, I'm not sure if I would hear that the way that maybe some of the cities intend it to be heard. And what I assume some of the other mayors mean is that the state has encouraged kind of a massively scaled approach that some might call like a one-size-fits-all, but the reality on the ground for a lot of the cities is that this isn't enough for the most vulnerable and the people that they see hurting and suffering. And there's a local recognition that additional services are needed, or additional local approaches are more effective, in a combination and a wraparound than kind of a one-size-fits-all housing approach. Is that a fair way of describing maybe the fine print of what some of those other mayors mean by wanting more local control? It's really just the ability to be more effective in meeting the needs of the most vulnerable than is allowed through maybe just a singular, massively scaled housing approach.
I think it's more than just the most vulnerable, but Dana, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I would say that it is absolutely about bringing the decision-making back into a city. So when it comes to zoning, I do not want multifamily zoning in my entire single-family zoning areas, right? I know where I've prepared for density. I know where we've planned for it. I know where I've got the infrastructure. It is not everywhere that is a 15-minute walking path to transit that might only happen twice a day. So it's more about letting a city do for the city what it knows best, because we've been talking to our residents, we know it exists, all of those kind of things. So it's really, and so I suppose that is also the help for the most vulnerable, but it's the help for everybody in between.
Okay, thank you. I didn't understand it well, but it sounds like maybe others understood it better than I did. So
Are we good?
Well, I was just going to
Mary?
clarify that what I heard. Well, okay. Claire, your survey is going to be really helpful after you go back and listen to this recording, because I think I heard two different things. One was the local control piece, and then the second one was a moment to breathe, I think was maybe a corollary to that, right? Like that you've done a lot from the policy front. Comp plan season is over for us, by and large. And so, could we take a breather on things, land use, zoning, whatever related for a minute and see what happens with the things we've just put in place? Because we can't even see their impacts yet.
Yeah, and the fact that there is conflicting language in some of the legislation, there's always that lovely piece too.
Thanks,
Okay, does that?
I had
thank you,
left that
Sonari.
out. Yeah.
Anybody else want to weigh in? Carmen, any thoughts from you?
Hi, I know I've been a little bit quiet. Apologies. I'm also working my other job at the moment, so I'm multitasking while listening in. I definitely am in favor of trying to have the forum and trying to find that alignment and common ground. And I just appreciate all the work that Claire and Dozel have put into it. I think even just having an introduction and kind of a networking opportunity that was discussed is really, I think any opportunity just to get together would be beneficial. I think that we can find our common ground and our alignment there, and that's what I would like to work towards. So, no, everything else has pretty much been said. I do apologize for not being as talkative in this meeting.
No problem. Thank you very much, Carmen. Okay, with that, Claire, I think you've got some clarity and understanding on how we're going to move forward to the next step of determining whether we move forward. Okay. All right. I lied. I said this was going to be a short meeting today. The next item, another small topic, the SKIP 2020 legislative priorities. So we thought we would talk today about potential priorities for 2026. And you know that every year around this time, this is when we start doing this. And for the last couple of years, our priority has been, as Brian referenced earlier, to fund all aspects of affordable housing. So we use the legislative priorities as an opportunity typically to highlight the flyer that we put together, the one pager we call it, which is shared with all of our member jurisdictions. And then we use that as optional inclusion in our respective legislative priorities. So we've usually stayed pretty neutral on any of the specific legislative bills, as you all know, just by proof and evidence of today, the fact that we don't all agree on the same things, but we do have high overarching agreement in principle on things. So Claire, I think you have a presentation on this, so I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair. So in your agenda packet, you should have a document called Draft Ideas, SKIP Legislative Priorities. We'll be reviewing that content and more over the next few slides. And as the Chair mentioned, this is the time of year when we start discussing SKIP legislative priorities for the upcoming session. Whatever is agreed upon here at the board level, we incorporate into a flyer that can be used to share information about SKIP and when meeting with your state delegation. In previous years, the board has indicated a desire for SKIP to not advocate for or against any bill, given the unique positions of each of our member jurisdictions, as we have just been discussing. So last year's priorities listed on the slide here, and the previous year's priority was similar to this as well. I will read it for you. South King County is facing a growing affordable housing crisis. In order to address this crisis, we need to fund all aspects of affordable housing, including homeownership for moderate income households and below, preservation of naturally occurring affordable housing, or NOAA, land acquisition to secure permanent affordability, permanent supportive housing, infrastructure around affordable housing developments, and workforce housing, especially smaller sized units below 60% AMI and family sized units at all income levels. So some preliminary board feedback indicated a desire to not support funding all aspects of affordable housing, as you heard Brian bring up earlier, since it could be interpreted as supporting some of the legislation from previous sessions that reduced local control. So based on that feedback, I developed a couple ideas for your consideration. And additionally, we have a board member proposal as well. So let's look at them. So option one, increase funding for affordable housing. Invest more in affordable housing and prioritize households experiencing homelessness, households earning 0 to 30% AMI, acquisition and rehabilitation of naturally occurring affordable housing, homeownership up to 80% AMI, 3+ bedroom units to accommodate families and multi-generational households. So this item is similar to 2024 and 2025's legislative priority. It reflects the board's priority in supporting households experiencing homelessness or are at risk of homelessness, preservation of naturally occurring affordable housing, homeownership, and large-sized units to reflect the market demand and the population needs of the South King County communities. So option two, increase funding at the local level for affordable housing. So this option seeks to provide the legislature with one solution to increase funding for affordable housing. Essentially, the proposal is to double the current amount of funding cities and counties collect under Substitute House Bill 1406, which most of you pool with SKIP for the Housing Capital Fund, and some of you retain all or a portion of it for rental assistance. The impact of this is more funding at the local level for affordable housing and rental assistance, and less money retained by the state. So the tax would remain the same for the consumer, and it's a streamlined way for the legislature to amend the RCW to increase funding for affordable housing at the local level at the expense of the state, and not creating a new revenue source or increasing or creating new taxes. So I wouldn't expect that the board would support this idea in this upcoming legislative session, since it's a short session and the state is already at a massive deficit. I'm just wanting to plant the seed early with you this year for deeper consideration in future years. So this is the proposal that Brian had included, and which removes the all aspects of affordable housing from it. So wanted to show you this version here, though I did not get his feedback on the other two proposals. So just so folks are aware of that. So here are the questions I would like to work through with you. And Chair Backus, would love you, if you wouldn't mind facilitating that conversation. Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you, Claire. All right. Any initial thoughts on this, on whether you like any one of the options?
The question, do we have Brian somewhere in our email, or is it only on that slide?
So, Sonari, I'm sorry, what was the question?
Sorry, do we have Brian's version in our email somewhere? Or was it only on the slide? Email management is not good for me these days.
Sorry. Yeah, no, no, I didn't, I did not circulate it. So my apologies. I'm just showing it, and I can go back to it right here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And he just took the 2025 one and did a strikeout to it. Was that?
Yep, he struck
Pretty
out
much, yeah.
all and then struck out including and just rephrased to say that include.
I don't
So
have any
from-
issue with that.
Okay, yeah, I like it because, well, actually, I would prefer that it be like a menu and cities get to decide which aspects
Mm.
of affordable housing are best for their communities.
I also very much support that.
I like this too.
We just do fund affordable housing, including.
So it will say, South King County is facing a growing affordable housing crisis. In order to address this crisis, we need to fund aspects of affordable housing that include. So it's removing all aspects of affordable housing, including. Yeah.
Right. I'm wondering if we could just strike aspects of, there's just something weird about aspects of affordable
Yeah.
housing almost sounds like just funding the roof to me.
Yeah. Okay. We need
and
to
so
fund affordable
affordable
housing,
housing, including,
or that
or does
includes.
that include?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. When you put that included, you still have a grammar problem. I don't know.
That
There-
may include.
So infrastructure around affordable housing developments would maybe not apply.
I
then.
see. I see. Yeah.
But
Okay.
you could,
Okay,
we
fair
could
enough.
remove that.
Content.
Victoria?
Thank you. And I think Claire just touched on that, because I was going to ask about the infrastructure around affordable housing piece, because I didn't know that we were actually, I thought at this point we were still just doing basically the housing and not funding money toward the infrastructure, if I'm reading this correctly. But was this here already for our previous priorities?
So this was included. I should say SKIP doesn't necessarily, I mean, we don't fund the infrastructure around. We can fund the utility connections that are required for a project, but this is referring to, you know, sidewalks and streets and things like that as well.
And that's not something we're currently doing, you said, right? The sidewalks, streets. So I feel like that's another conversation, isn't it? Before we include that as, and I'm not saying I'm for it or against it. It sounds like a great idea, but that seems like we're kind of adding something in that we haven't really been doing.
Well, it's been in our priorities, but it's not something we're necessarily asking the legislature provide to SKIP, right? So the priority is fund all of these different things related to affordable housing, whether or not SKIP gets those funds or not. So it's a good question. If it doesn't seem like it fits, we can, that's why we have these conversations.
I'm fine with it. I wasn't here, you know, probably back in the day when these first got, when I read infrastructure, that can mean a lot of different things. And I didn't know if that was something we had already discussed up to this point. You know, this is something that we're prioritizing. And again, infrastructure is important, and I'm not saying I'm against it. I just wanted to make sure we have a fine enough point on it. And feedback, because again, I don't have the historical context on it necessarily.
I've been here since the beginning and I couldn't tell you for sure what that is, but my guess is that it's this CHIP program that the state has been running, which is like a connecting housing to infrastructure program, which allows utilities, kind of jurisdictions to work with utilities and developers to kind of offset the costs of water, sewer line upsizing, other things that might have to happen because of the increase in density. And doing that then reduces the cost to the developer. So it's a program that the state has been successfully running that's in high demand every year. And so that's probably in there just as a like, not because the money comes to Skip, but to allow, you know, to say that Skip values the added benefit that comes from that program.
And that program requires the developer to partner with either a city or the county in order to access those funds. So the cities could essentially be serving as a sponsor and receiving those funds on behalf of the project. And it's a pretty great way for cities to be able to get more money into a project that they like and they support, that's not costing them anything.
That's fine. And what was the name of that program again?
It's called CHIP.
CHIP.
CHIP, Connecting Housing. I think it's infrastructure program.
Yeah, right. I put the link in the chat too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Other thoughts? So is option 3 the one we're leaning towards? Yes, I'm seeing some thumbs. Okay. Anyone have a major concern over option 3? Okay. All right. Claire, anything more on this?
I have just a question about folks' use of the flyer, the legislative priorities flyer from last year and previous years, if folks did use that, and if so, how did you use that?
So I know that we shared the flyer when we met with our legislators. Victoria?
Thank you. We used ours when we met with our legislators too. I don't believe that we distributed it, but we used it as our talking points. So.
And if folks don't actually know, that's okay. The staff at your cities may know. So I can ask this to our staff work group as well. So thank you.
Okay. Anything else on this, Claire?
That's it.
Okay, well, maybe we gave ourselves a bunch of time back. All right, so then let's move on to item 6, and that's updates and announcements, and that's Claire, who I understand has several updates to share with us today.
Yes, just a small handful. So regarding a housing solutions grant, King County Council member Deshawn Quinn from District 5 recommended directing a small grant in the amount of $10,000 to Skip's operating budget in the county's supplemental budget, sourced as part of the Local Solutions Housing Stability Grants of the voter-approved King County Veterans, Seniors, and Human Services Levy. This came about from a conversation between Councilmember Quinn and Mayor Zimmerman about homelessness and affordable housing in South King County. And Councilmember Quinn's staff let me know that he really appreciates the work and leadership being provided at Skip. And thank you to Eric for his advocacy and support of Skip's work and this really great collaboration. So something to celebrate, and I will keep you up to date if we actually do make it into the adopted budget.
I think you did.
Oh, on the
I think
yeah,
so.
I believe it was passed on Tuesday, and I got a budget update today that has it listed. I was just double checking when I saw it in the agenda.
Hooray.
So
Excellent.
Thank
Excellent.
you. That's great news. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
Eric, thank you for that conversation that initiated this. That's wonderful.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. And you can tell all I really do these days is talk to people about housing. So it's my like 8 hours a day.
Oh, thank you. So regarding the advisory board recruitment, so Dorsal is actively recruiting for the SKIP Community Advisory Board and accepting applications through August 1st. If you have folks you'd like us to reach out to, please do let us know. Additionally, we have 2 dates currently being held for candidate interviews. The interview panel will consist of the SKIP Executive Board Chair, Vice Chair, plus 1 additional board member and 1 current advisory board member. Dorsal and I will provide staff support and coordination in those interviews. So I'd like to see if anyone here is interested and available for the 2 dates and times. And if you are, please either let me know here in this meeting now if you're able to look at your calendar, or you can also email me. So the date and times are Tuesday, August 19th from 9 a.m. to 10:30 and Wednesday, August 20th from 1 p.m. to 2:30. And let me see if I can't just drop that in the chat for you to access. Let's see. Put it to everyone. All right, here we go. All right. All right, so they're there. So if you are interested in participating, would love to have you. Regarding the Housing Capital Fund pre-application meeting, so far we've received 5 requests for pre-application meetings for this year's funding round of the Housing Capital Fund. Pre-application meetings must be held by August 4th, and that is to accommodate the time, the notification period that cities have to say, we don't support this project. And so that's why that cutoff date is there, because our application deadline is September 3rd. So big picture, there are 2 projects located in Renton, 1 in SeaTac, 1 in Federal Way, and 1 in Burien. All are new construction except for the project in Burien. And I will give you just a high-level overview of each project. So the African Community Housing and Development, or ACHD, is a nonprofit proposing a 129-unit project for the African diaspora immigrant and refugee community. Project's located in SeaTac. It's serving 30 to 60% AMI. Next is the Mental Health Housing Foundation, is a nonprofit proposing a 20-unit project for residents with chronic and persistent mental illness. The project is located in Federal Way, serving 30 to 50% AMI, and we have a pre-application meeting forthcoming. St. Stephen's Housing Association is a nonprofit proposing the development of 6 3-bedroom townhomes for rent in Renton for families experiencing homelessness. This project was supported by the City of Renton directly, and this project also applied to SKIP last year. We have the pre-application meeting forthcoming. Bellwether Housing is a nonprofit with a project in Renton, and we just learned about their interest in holding a pre-application meeting, so we haven't received their intent to apply form yet, so we don't really know much about this project yet. And then lastly, Catholic Community Services, a nonprofit, is proposing the rehabilitation of a 30-unit senior housing complex built in 1983 with all of its original systems that need updating and replacing. So the project is located in Burien, serving 30 to 50% AMI seniors. And then some exciting news. You all have been working hard funding all of these projects. And then at some point we get to have a celebration and a ribbon cutting. And one of those opportunities is coming soon. So Mercy Housing's Burien Family Housing groundbreaking is currently scheduled for September 19th at 11 a.m. And you'll notice that this is the same day as our legislative forum. So, but it is at a different time, luckily and thankfully. So when I get the official invite, I will circulate that to you. And then just for awareness, the combined funders application has gone live today from the Department of Commerce. That is the application form that we use. So our applicants will now have time to work through that. Commerce and King County released their notice of funding available and RFPs this week. So very excited about that. And then I mentioned a TWG update at our last meeting, and I don't have all the information to share with you yet, but should by next meeting, so anticipate that. And then finally, I will be on vacation July 25th through August 3rd for your awareness. And that's it from me, Chair.
All right, thank you. Anything else for the good of the order? I'm not hearing anything, so thank you all for sharing your Friday afternoon a little bit cooler than it has been the rest of the week. So hopefully that's goodness for everyone who has been suffering in that heat. And I hope you all have a fabulous weekend doing things that you want to do and enjoy doing with those that you love to do them with. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.